everyone. I'm Shelly Dressel, and tonight I am channeling the universal light beings, which are Albayon, Brysentia, and Crystallia. Albayon is from Arcturus, Brysentia the Pleiades, and um, Crystallia is from the multiverse or the omniverse. A place far, far away. I sound like that movie from a long time ago. Anyway, I know I'm running a few minutes late here. I'm sorry about that. I was just telling Alexander, I have been in the strangest place for about the past week or 10 days. And I don't know if all of you or some of you are also feeling this, because just feeling kind of disoriented, discombobulated. Last night I deleted my OneDrive on this computer, and so I wiped out my computer, and then I had to get that back today. It's just been crazy. So anyway, now I'm here, and I know once we get into it and we start and I start channeling, it'll all be great. So thank you everyone for showing up. I also just wanted to mention what is it? So tomorrow is the full moon. I thought it was back the first part of the month. I don't know what I was thinking about. But anyway, tomorrow's the full moon in May, or I think they go like 6 months out. But anyway, this is the Wesak festival, which the meditation with Goddess Light last Sunday was about the Wesak or the Vesak festival, which is when it's about Buddha's birthday, but the belief is that Buddha and Christ come back down to earth to to still continue to shift the energy and continue to bring in the light. And so that's tomorrow, and I have a wonderful meditation that we did last Sunday. I don't know, Alexander, maybe can you stick that link in the comments? But anyway, so I was kind of thinking about that, and so it's just continues to be so much energy. I forgot what I was going to say. So I do private sessions, and I am working on a class. It's like I was working on this one class, and it was going to be like 4 or 5 hours. And so what I'm starting to do is just kind of subdivide it to make it into shorter classes. It is about the what do you call it? In the ascended energies, everything is about your relationship to your soul. It's and that's what, when they talk about a spiritual ascension or a spiritual evolution or spiritual changes, that's the foundation, is that you are more open to your soul. And so I started working on that, and then interestingly, I did a private session with a couple of people, and they both had the same comment that, boy, I need to learn how to communicate more with my soul. And in private sessions, we do soul communication. So that was a part of this connection to your soul. Anyway, my point is, then I thought, well, maybe I should just do the communication separate. Maybe I should do. So I've been working on these, and in the crazy energies of the last week, it's just, it's kind of evolving, or I'm not sure how it's all going to come out, but I have this long list, like about 7 different classes that I want to make. And I think what's stopping me is that in the past, I've always just written the course, put it together, and gave it. And now I just feel like there's so much that's changing. I feel as if not, people don't necessarily need a long time to be in class. I think people get like you get saturated, and then, you're done. And you think it sounds like a great class about the soul. Thank you. Hey, Ken, good to see you. Eileen, Made in Joy, I love that. Thank you for these messages. Oh, you're welcome. Terry, Judy. Anyway, I get distracted. You know that ADD. It's like squirrel, squirrel, squirrel. What was I talking about? So my kind of maybe give me your feedback. Would you prefer to have something that is more like a 2-hour class? Would you prefer something that really goes in depth and maybe a little longer, or do that in separate classes that, because the other option I'm thinking about is I could make this big class that they all work together with one another, but then allow people to do it in segments. And that way, if you do segment one, you don't want to go any further, then you're good to go, which is again taking me back to doing the shorter versions. So I'm thinking about all that, and who knows where it's all going to go. Okay, what else am I doing? Um, well, we're coming up on Memorial Day here in the U.S., which is always like the signifying of the summer. And then from Memorial until Labor Day. So I know a lot of people are kind of coming and going. I was wanting to channel like Brysentia. I could feel her energies last week, and then it just never kind of came about. I was going to do a little mini with her, but my point is, I just feel as if there's so much energy that's coming through. There's so much talk that's going on, and some of it I'm conscious of, some of it I'm unconscious of, and that was another message to all of you, is that most likely you are getting all sorts of messages and it's all just kind of dumping into your unconsciousness. Maybe some things you're aware, maybe some things you're not aware, but I felt as if that was a big message, and then just kind of went out of my mind, and then I quit thinking about it again. I was telling Alexander that you remember last time we got together, there was that energy that came in that was trying to, be, nefarious, and we cleared it out. So I was still in the channel when we got done. So I thought I would give y'all a little more information, because a few people did comment and some people sent me emails about it. And some of you felt the energies coming in too. So I love getting people's different perspectives, because it's all like pieces of the whole. So what I felt was just this dark, like when you've seen like a black cloud, how they show in the movies and different things like that, and it's just swirling around. So this was just a black cloud that had eyes and stuff, but multiple. And I first saw it at the window, and then I felt it over here, and it felt like it was always outside of my house. It didn't actually come into my house. But then as soon as we were sending out energy to kind of clear it away, what I do is like I just bring up a ball of energy, like a white light within me, and then just whoosh, send it out. And that's what I was doing, and I was sending it out there. And then as soon as we started doing that, I could feel Albayon, Brysentia, and I mean, there must have been 8 or 10, just these other light beings. I work with a lot of light beings, so I couldn't sit there and say it was XYZ names. It was just a group of them, and it was like they all came in and they all encircled it and they took it away. So when I got done, I have one of those Ring cameras right outside my window here, and I was looking at it just because it occurred to me, well, was there anything on that? And there were these three, no, about 6 orbs. They were this big, and they were like stretching out and contracting, stretching out and contracting. And they were just going all around the area outside. And even though, like, when I looked at it, it was like, yeah, I could still see some residual energy there. And then maybe about 30 minutes after I was done, we had like this 5-minute rain that came through. And then after that, I didn't see the orbs anymore. So I find all of this really interesting and fascinating. And I know you guys might be interested in that too. But what I want to share with all of you is that anyone can do this. I do it because I'm aware of it, and I've worked with many individuals that, like, when I was working with them, energies would come in to try to attack, and so we'd clear it out. I have had a couple that were a little bit more frightening than that, and I'm not going to go into that. But I think in this time, even if it's someone that's not necessarily from the nefarious ones, but if you're just around individuals and there are people that are maybe anxious, or people, you're just not necessarily getting along real well or something like that, you can still use that sense of sending out a ball of energy and just clear the aura around you, clear the aura between you and another person. And of course, in this energy, you don't control and manipulate, but that is something that everyone has the right to do. You have the right to have clear energy around you. You have the right to disconnect from anyone that might be a bit of an energy vampire. And so just food for thought. I thought, as long as I'm going to talk about this for a minute, then maybe you'd enjoy hearing that other little bit of stuff. So hello from England. Good to see you, Rosalie, Patty, and Joanne. So lots of people here. Anyway, So that was the kind of the completion of that. I had no other problems then in the 2 weeks with that energy, because once it was done that night and I saw that orb, it was literally like I had this one picture where I could see like the round balls that were connected to one another, and it was just expanding, contracting, expanding, and it was just going in every different direction over my driveway. So pretty cool. All right. Well, let me just kind of jump in here, and I'm sure once I start channeling, all of this distraction will just kind of come down in. But please feel free to share, like if you're noticing things, and or you can send me an email. And occasionally I do get way behind on emails, but for the most part, I try to answer them, as efficiently as I can. Okay, here we go. I'm going to jump in now. Greetings. It is I, Brysentia. I come to speak with you this evening about the changes in consciousness. Shelly was just talking to you about that communication with soul, that communication with your higher self, that communication with it in actually is a doorway, you could say, to many other individuals. So that being able to have that connection, being able to create that alignment and then use it consistently is a very good way for you to strengthen that energy. I use this, many other people, it may not be that exact same technique, but we all use a form of moving down through the soul consciousness as a means of connecting with people on the earth, connecting with people out in the universe, connecting with our own selves as we are seeking information from perhaps what might be considered a past life or a future life. Okay. So when we talk about soul and we talk about the ascension, there are certain things that your perception of them is just that, your perception. We've talked multiple different times about the ways in which your consciousness has shifted. When everything was in the third dimension, when everything was under the matrix and all that control and manipulation, you were given somewhat of a narrow view of what to believe, of what the reality was, of how people were interacting with one another. As you continue to grow, as you continue to expand, and some people always had this ability, but I'm speaking of those that had gone from that place that was somewhat narrow into more and more potentials, more and more consciousness. These are the individuals that have gone through that ascension process. Someone is just playing around with me. This is Shelly again. I did not even touch my mic and suddenly it got muted. So someone just playing around there with the energies. Anyway, come back to Brysentia. I think, greetings. It is I, Brysentia, again. So I believe that I was kind of going down a little pathway, and be it myself, Albayon, someone was like, no, that's not what we really want to say. So what we truly want to say is that when you look back into your ancient scriptures, when you look back, be it the Bible, which is not as ancient as some of the others, the Bhagavad, you know, through Krishna and Buddha and these other many different what would be considered religious figureheads, Kuan Yin. There are so many very ancient belief systems, and most of those are very different than what you yourself are aware of. Some of this is because you kind of narrowed everything down into a just very small narrow focus, and in doing so, well, how can I have A meet B meet C meet D, when the truth of the matter is it is so vast and so abstract that there are throughout your entire history, there have been beings of light that came in and worked directly with people on the earth plane. And this is where sometimes people get into the confusion of, were they the Anunnaki? Were they other brands? Were they other beings of light? Were they other, who are they? Where did they come from? What was their purpose? And indeed, there were times in which these beings that came into the earth plane did come in as a means of control and manipulation. And you'll hear people talk about how this one had control of this aspect of the world. But when you listen to a lot of those things, they're talking about one faction. They're not talking about the big, broad spectrum of things. However, these are the ones that have been the overlords, if you want to say it, or the ones that have been somewhat in the focus of the consciousness for the control and the reality of what is present on your earth. And as you begin to listen to these things, I'm going to invite you to really, really tune inside of yourself, because some of it you may hear people talking about, oh, so and so was in charge, and that person wanted to come down to the earth, and they would mate with the humans, then they would go back and live on. These are the gods of Olympus. And that there's not distruth to that, and that's not the full truth. So as you look back at what you were taught, in school, at what you were taught through your churches, and consider how that reality is what has affected you. Be open and aware that, yes, that is perhaps a piece of the puzzle, but that's not the entire puzzle. And yes, perhaps there were those individuals that worked with one another to create the reality that you have experienced. However, the interpretation of it is not necessarily on the same level. So this is why I want to put this out there to you, to consistently say that what you have always believed and what you are going to understand in the future are going to be different things. You already have it within you through your intuition that as you're listening to stuff, if you hear, that's not quite right, then begin to break down the way in which you have believed something to be a reality. So I wanted to say all this because we come here in the day of the Wesak, the day of Buddha and Christ. That in and of itself was a reality. Buddha, they have listed as, what was it, 1,000 years before Christ, or there is a sequence of different beings that came into the earth, and those beings all make up the Sananda energy. And in this current reality, through those that follow the Buddhic religion, they're the ones that will follow the Wesak or follow the Vesak. And only in the past 15 to 20 years or so has it become more of a worldwide reality. And so consider that. And the reason that I'm bringing this up is because they are very, very much a part of what is going on, of what is your reality. So let us consider that. When you are looking at, did Buddha really come back? Did Christ really come back? So many of these that you consider your religious leaders, the ones that developed or started these various aspects of the religions on your earth plane, they have all come back multiple different times. Sometimes they came back looking as someone different. Sometimes they came back looking exactly the same. Sometimes they came back, as with the Wesak festival, in alignment with one another, so that the energies of Buddha amplified Christ, the energies of Christ amplified Buddha, and in doing so, it would every single year create a ball of energy that cleared out what was going on the earth plane. So some of this, it never got much further than the Himalayan mountains. Other years, like this year, it literally has wrapped the earth in its energy. The official time that it is recognized is tomorrow, the 23rd. However, just as with, consider what this year has been for you as humanity. You've had multiple different eclipses come in. You've had some bigger solar flares than you've ever had before. The Wesak festival, these many multiple different times that were opportunities for these energies to bring in to come into the earth plane have all been way amplified and shifted upward into a much bigger perspective than what they've ever been in the past. And so that's why I wanted to speak of this. That which you call religion is going to change. That word religion may or may not remain. When I look 5 to 10, in 5 years it's still there. In 10 years, probably much less. But just be aware that it's about your belief systems, and understand that you took, like, it's like taking this massive amount of consciousness that could fill up your planet and tried to pare it down and bring it into you, the person that you are, or the organization of that religion, or a culture of a people. And this is where so much got lost, and this is where there was also that deliberate manipulation. So a part of the reason that things have gone so very slowly is that this consciousness has been released and cleared and sent out. Some of these solar flares that are coming into you are entrained with the energy of that lost information. It's entrained with the energy of who you are as a culture, who you are as humanity, who you are as part of your DNA. And now it's going to be reflected outward in the way in which you communicate with one another. I feel as if I've really talked in a big circle here, but I think my points that I really wanted to make clear is that it's not just the Anunnaki. They are a part of what happened to the earth plane. I, as a Pleiadian, am not an Anunnaki, and yet the Pleiadians had massive influence on what was going on the earth plane. It's just the Anunnaki were in alignment with those that were the ones writing the stories and writing the books, and that's why they put themselves as the only ones that were in charge, or the only ones that had any influence. So consider that whenever you hear these many different things. When you look at the history of the planet, which is millions of years, there have been times when it was only that which were the Pleiadians, or only the Arcturans, or only various species were focused on this planet. And then there were also many, many, many other times when it was all of them working together in unison as one. So that is where we are right now. They are breaking down the bonds that have kept everyone in that narrow-minded perspective, and in doing so, it is beginning to flood the earth plane, flood humanity and consciousness with the reality that spirituality is so much more than what you thought it was, and that religion is something that was used as a form of control and manipulation. That being said, as you know, we are always very, 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 very temperate. We know that there are many, many of these religions around the world that have been incredibly helpful to people. They've helped people when they felt alone, separate, isolated. So they find a community within the church. So obviously that's something very loving, warm, and generous. So consider this, that when people were feeling lonely and isolated and then they found the church, consider, if you will, that when you feel lonely and isolated and you find that soul of your divinity, then that is the same thing. You could look at them as parallels. However, that connection to your own divinity is what is going to actually help you to then find your community of people on the planet that are of a similar vibration. So big difference, and I know it's way more complicated than what I have put forth here, but and that's why the microphone went on mute, because I was in this big, I was trying to talk vast, and I was needed to shift it down. I did want to talk about one other thing before we get going here with the question and answer. So let me speak again about the portals. And by portal, I'm going to speak more about, I know Albayon was talking, and the last time when Shelly felt that attack energy coming in or that nefarious energy coming in, let me speak about that. So there are portals all over your planet. There are portals all over every single planet. And so sometimes consciousness that brings with it a bit, be it a lot or a little, of physical reality will move through the portals. When you send your consciousness somewhere, all you have to do is sit, focus, send your consciousness where you want it to go, and you can begin to see or experience that place where you went. What happened with those is that they were programmed to there's a frequency that goes out with everything that gets said, and they were programmed to find that frequency and try to take down anyone that was talking about it. And sometimes this was happening to people that had no clue what was really going on in we believe 100% it came from the Vatican, and we should probably start, going in with those, what is it, coded words, the V. Anyway, um, what that's telling you is a couple of different things. Number one, that they were already aware of Shelly. They couldn't say, "Oh, look at this person in Georgia. Her name is Shelly." It was nothing at all like that. But they do know that this spot sends out a frequency consistently, and in that frequency, sometimes it's things they don't want to have spoken about. So what happened the last time was they themselves are at the end. And when this came up, they were at a little bit more high alert. So think about the AI that you get through your computer. Think about your cell phone, you're holding your phone, and the AI that picks up everything from there. There are certain aspects of that that do pick up a consciousness. It does pick up a words. So that was where the energy shifted over, and it was picked up by those that tracked her down. What also happened that she did not explain to you was that as those energies that came and cleared out the area around her, they then followed it back, followed the stream of energy from where it came, and they also took out what was at the other end of it. So in other words, those that have been sitting in the background spinning these AI programs and spinning these, there are very few humans that are still a part of that. But they're those that were the lowest, that are just still there thinking that they're taking care of things, thinking that someone else is going to come and take over. And so this led the energies. This was all just pure energy. There was no physicality with it, but it led them back into that space. And then they were able to clear out that energy. And once you clear it out, it is gone. Like they go to the source of it and clear it out from the source. And then certainly AI will try to replicate itself once more and try to bring it back in. But when the minions, when the humans that were programming and giving it the energy thought that it was gone, that it was no longer there, then it was taking out a couple of pieces of that puzzle. And that's why it dismantled. So consider that if you do have an experience, maybe something similar is going on with you. The negative AI is here and it's rampant, as you are very well aware. However, the more that you bring in the consciousness of which I speak, the consciousness of you, the humans that are in this ascended vibration and frequency, the more that that is here and present and coming into your computers, coming into your phones, coming into your tablets, all of that is what is shifting the vibration and frequency that they can then come in and hook into and create that negative frequency. You are very powerful. You are very powerful. And when you come from a place that was under that control and manipulation of the matrix, your perception as a human is that you are not. But the truth of the matter is, as your soul essence, as the being that you are, that is so much more than just this one single lifetime, that is massive and that is powerful, and nothing can come over that when you're in that space of balance. Okay, hopefully that gives you, kind of a perspective of a few different things that I felt were important to talk about. And let's just shift over to the questions now, if you have questions. I live in a small town in New Zealand. We have a very polluted lake here. Please tell me what I can do to energetically help. This lake was used as a portal into negative stuff. It felt like it went into some of those dumps, are they called? It went into the place where they were planning to go when they had the nuclear holocaust. And with that holocaust, they were planning to, what's the word I want to use that as a way to kind of filter out humanity and keep them from being able to go in. So some of that pollution there is used as a screen to keep people from swimming there, to keep people from going there, so that they won't find that portal and go into deeper places inside the earth. So here I'm tapping into it as I speak to you. And here's what you can do, and here's what I'm going to do as we are connecting with this. So I envision in my mind's eye through I'm connecting to you, the person that asked the question, and then you as the person know this lake, and that's how I'm linking to it. If you put that name of that lake out there, then anybody else that, I mean, anybody could do it that way. But as you know, there's multiple ways that things can be done. But if you say the name of the lake, then as people read and listen to this later, and they too see the name of the lake, then they can connect to that. Any body of water, this feels like it was a fairly big body of water. And as I'm connecting to it, there is a soul consciousness of water. And some, not every single little pond and thing, but these big lakes that are in various parts of the world, they are very, very it's almost like the consciousness of the lake had its own soul, or sometimes the consciousness of the lake was linked to another bigger soul, and it was all a part of the whole. This one felt like it was something that was suppressed, and it feels like a masculine energy, and it felt like he allowed them to do this because he knew there was a bigger reason for all of this to take place, not only to raise the consciousness of those that live in the area, but as a means of protecting it. And so the consciousness of this lake was very well aware. I mean, he could have cleaned it in an instant at any time and space. But as I'm talking to it right now, as I'm connecting with it right now, I spoke to you, what was it, 2 times ago, 3 times ago, about how much of the waters are going to be so important as you go forward. And this energy, or this soul of this lake, feels like it feels like a freshwater lake, but this looks like some of those ocean beings, like a Neptune type being. And he says, no, I'm not Neptune. Agreed. But just to give you a visual, it just feels like that. So the lake this is how we would say you can clear the lake. See it as being clear, connect to the soul essence of the lake, talk to it, communicate with it, say whatever your reason was that you had that experience. Thank you for being there, for being present. But here, moving forward, I open and I embrace and I accept and acknowledge that this lake is beautiful, pristine water. It's very deep. It's a very deep lake. And it's like there are shelves, like certain parts of it do not seem so deep, but when you get to the center, it's a very deep lake, because that's where it goes into a portal. Okay, so this is how you can clear it. And you know what? I also said, it just occurred to me as I was saying this, because he was reminding me that this is going to become very, very, very common, that people will I did sorry, Shelly's in the background laughing, and she says, oh, I can just see it now. I go to my family or my member, well, the soul of this lake is telling me. And humanity's not quite there yet. Anyone in this group, you would get it and you would say, yes, that's true. However, in the not so distant future, people will make statements like that, and everyone will say, yes, I know, I agree, I can feel it. So that's again another way of thinking about how things are going to be changing. Talking about the consciousness of the trees, of any large body of water, of any large the mountain ranges, you know, so much of this earth plane, every piece of the earth has consciousness, and so much of that has been dormant. But as you go forward and as you move forward with all of this, there's going to be a great deal of it that comes out. So thank you for that. And when you want to look at how we can clear the oceans, how we can clear the land, um, you know, it was mentioned in another place. You know, I constantly have seen universal beings come into the earth plane and hitting a staff on the land and sending a vibration and a frequency through the land that allows it to transition and get rid of all the toxins and get rid of everything. I mean, it can happen in that instant. So too, it came to Shelly's awareness about like some of these um, monoliths, if you want to call them that, or things that are made of a substance that is not on the earth plane, that are coming up from inside the earth, is another way of sending out a frequency that can clear the earth. So there are going to be many different ways in which you hear about these things. If you read about that or hear about that in another way, then ask yourself the question, was this here to clear, or is there another message? Because perhaps there's another message. But anyway, great question, and it sure did lead us to a number of different things, didn't it? Okay. Can you speak about the other forces that have arrived near Earth that are supporting the nefarious ones? Let us look and see if there's someone there that I am not aware, so hang on a minute. It's not that there are new forces that have come in that are supporting the nefarious ones. These are forces that have always been there, that have hidden behind other things, and now they are no longer hiding behind anything. So if the perception people have, you know, that's accustomed to connecting with or communicating with ships and beings that are out, you know, in the higher frequencies or outside of your earth plane, then they're saying, oh my God, they just showed up. No, they didn't. These are the ones that have been here all along, but they cloaked themselves so that they were not seen or they were not aware by those living on Earth. We always knew they were there. We have monitored them for a very long time. And there are very few of them that they're trying to give back the power and find people on the earth that can still be mind controlled and manipulated so that they can gather a new army to do what they want to do. But they cannot, and some of these, it's a very interesting, it's a very fine line. The vast majority, when you get into the higher frequencies, that's light, that's love. And but there are still higher frequencies that have that belong to the nefarious ones, and these are the last ones that are being weeded out. So we are aware of them and we monitor them, and they do not have as much power as some of these individuals think they have, but they are not going to be there very long. They are there as a, what do you want to use it, how do we say this, so in the way in which they're monitored, when they start doing things that are having an impact on the earth plane and they see who responds to it, well, then those that are of the light, or those that are of the, you know, the white hats or whatever you call them, they can then go to where it gets shown a light. They can go and they can clean up what that is. So right now, and yeah, I mean, they're listening to us as I say this, and they're like, oh, you think you're so smart, and we're like, oh yeah, we are. Sorry. Sorry. No, they are to be taken seriously. However, they have, when I'm looking at them, and when I'm looking at all the various ships and the motherships that are here in support of all this, they are a tiny amount, and therefore have a tiny, um, yep, yep. They do not have as much impact as they wish they did. That's the bottom line. Okay. How can we obtain complete peace to open our heart or third eye? First and foremost, nobody has to have complete peace, because that's an impossibility. You live in a world where there's duality. You live in a world, and even though that is going away, it's still there. It's still a part of your third dimensional consciousness. And so you're still working with people. So the opening of your heart center and your third eye, that comes through your own spirituality and light. Just like I spoke of earlier, you can go back and listen to that again. This is one of those things that I'm working with Shelly on, that I would like for us to work with people a great deal, because the goal, I would think, that's not turning on. The goal, I would say to any one of you, is that you do not have to have total peace for your heart and your third eye to open, because we get many people that it's just intrinsic within them. And yes, they may have moments of peace. So I would say for anyone that is on this pathway, whether you're new to it or you've been on it for a very long time, seek through your own inner conversations with yourself, through your own, what's the word I want to use? Your own meditations, your prayers, your ascension. Let that potential be that you find love, joy, opening of your energy bodies, and then in doing that, accept as you go upon each step of this way. So knowing that, yes, maybe you'll have moments of peace, but maybe you'll also have lots of distractions. Maybe there'll be other things that are happening in your life, and yet at the same time, your third eye is wide open. And so it's not that everything is based on moments of peace. It's that time of, time that you may have in your life that is centered around peace and love and balance is there to nurture you. And in the nurturing of you, you may notice this. But your third eye, your heart center, your telepathy, all of these things can happen whether you're in that place of peace or whether things are very busy around you. Okay. The moon is changing. The moon is changing place often. Why? The moon is changing. There's a lot of discussion right now around the moon. Many people say it is not a planet, that it is a machine. Many people say it's actually a mothership. Many people say that it is inhabited by nefarious ones, and it was. There is some discussion that it was placed there millions of years ago with a specific reason for its alignment with the earth plane. So when we talk about the moon and the belief system about what it is, what is happening is that you are getting bits and pieces of things. Some may be the truth, some may not be in alignment with the truth, some may be in a truth that was associated with where you were a few years ago. So when we look at the moon and at what is going on, it is a very powerful mechanism, because it definitely has an impact on the earth plane. There is a magnetic pull between the moon and the earth, and it does have an effect on your waves, on your tides, on the light, on the different things that are a part of your everyday reality. So when you see it changing, there are a couple of different reasons for why this is. Number one, the more that you're living in the higher lighter frequency, everything looks different around you. You yourselves have said, do you remember after that big eclipse, and you all looked out and you said, oh my gosh, the green of the trees is a green I've never seen. And so be aware that as you're looking at the moon, as you're looking at the stars, as you're looking at the sun, the perspective of that is also very different, because you are now looking with greater transparency and without all of those energies that were a filter that kept you from seeing it. So that's one thing that's going on. Number two, as the moon used to be used as a way station, and there was a lot of, what's the word? Slave. It was a slave station. There was a lot of human trafficking that was going on. There were a lot of, It was used for a lot of different nefarious means. And when that happened, it had an overlay of energy that was very dark and very dense. And so as that has been removed and cleared out, then it is also allowing the moon itself to shine forth its energy. So is it a planet? Is it a machine? It is considered a planet by most of us, but there are parts of it that are a machine, that are not a machine, but yeah, a machine. And definitely within the inside of it, it is hollow, and there are many, it's a port that many people will go through the moon to go to other aspects of the universe. And so it is definitely used for that. But anyway, so the moon is looking different because of the lack of energy between you and the moon, because of the changes on the moon, and because of just everything that's going on. At one point, there was a perspective that there were two moons that were rotating around the Earth that were kind of at a balance to the Earth. And so one just seemed to disappear because it was the vibration of the Earth just got to be too low. So there may be a perception at times that sometimes they're like this, like one is here, one is here, and there's an overlay of the two reflections, but they do reflect. The reason that we didn't see that second one for so long was because it's very, very, very high frequency, and the Earth was too low. There's a potential. Yep, I just heard someone say, so does that mean then as the Earth raises in its potential, then you will no longer see this one and you'll see that second one? Totally a potential. That's a little bit about what has not been written as yet, because it is yet to unfold. Great questions tonight. Thank you, everyone. Greetings, beautiful Brysentia. Thank you. Would you please look at Dr. Ardis, who has posted about the healing properties of the tobacco plant? He says that the additives the companies put in cigarettes that were caused cancer. He says that the pure tobacco plant cures MS, diabetes, cancer, Parkinsons, and many other maladies. I know the American Indians use tobacco in ceremony and for healing. Actually, if you go back to the ancient times, the tobacco plant has been around a very, very, very long time, and it was used mostly for its medicinal purpose. So I would have to say I agree with this Dr. Ardis. I was looking just at the tobacco. Let me look at this Dr. Ardis. Yes, I agree. I like his energy. I think he is very true about that. And we've been saying all along that you will begin to find out about the many, many, many different natural and organic ways in which to cure illnesses that have not been available to everyone, because you had the control and manipulation through having the current medical system with the medicines that you know what I'm talking about. So looking back at tobacco, when I look at the Native Americans, they did use it as a medicinal thing, and to them it was very, very honored and revered. Not all of like it, what you might say in certain parts of the world, there's a lot of it, it can be grown very easily. So when I'm looking back to the Native Americans, I'm talking 1,000 years ago, I'm talking the Hopi, I'm talking about the ones before the Hopi. Not all of them had it easily or readily available to them, and that was why they used it in ceremony to clear the energy of that of whatever that space was as they were going into ceremony, but also as a means of trading, because to them that was a very high sign of respect. But 100% agree. As with so many things, unfortunately, it's been controlled, manipulated, additives have been put in there, and the whole intention was to keep people sick. So you will see that it will change. And honestly, it's those additives that make it so addictive to people. When all of this is said and done, and when things get cleared out, there will not be very many people that will be using the tobacco like they have already. It seems the intensity has gone up a notch. I unexpectedly left a job, and the one I wanted surprisingly got filled up all at the same time. Both unexpected. Others as well are experiencing a sudden change in circumstances last week and this week. What is this about? It feels like the energies are switching up in a big way, collectively and individually. You remember, like, for instance, Shelly was what, 5 minutes late to get here tonight? Shelly said, "Oh, yeah, I thought about doing a channel, but just was in this wonky space." So she's been feeling it too, and many, many other people. These energies, we knew that the month of May was going to be a very chaotic month. It's like when you go down off the coast of Africa and the Pacific and Atlantic are, it's just the natural currents of energy with these transitions are just butting up against each other, and it's creating all this chaos. So the what you talked about, the other job getting filled before you could apply for it, or before you could accept it, or before, whatever that was, that feels very strongly to me as if there is something else that you need to be doing, and something else that's going to come along in a very short period of time. It also feels as if you needed to take a break, and you needed to shift out of these energies, because this is where so much of the people that have not been aware of what's going on, a lot of their energy is rising up into anxiety. And then you have all of you that are here, that you're trying to balance, that you're trying to put these energies into, and it's just a very, very, very hard time. So that, all of that being said, may I remind you that this month will continue to be chaotic, and that after we get closer to the solstice, everything is going to smooth out. So that the question is about the disclosure. And every time we talk about it, it puts it into the future. We will talk about it because we know you guys want to hear about it, but there's so much that is coming out, and it's even being said in the mainstream media, and people are hearing, like some of you, that the friends and family that have not been as aware of things, they're even making comments about, well, what was that all about? Well, what were they talking about there? What did that mean? There is so much that is being disclosed this month, and this was a really pivotal time on the earth. Our perception when we looked at it from April into early May was that there would be all the discussion about the fake elections. The world leaders would be publicly taken down. The money would be transitioned. All of these things are going to happen. But as I look at it in this now moment, it's still like what is it you do with the balls? Juggling. Like, well, okay, now we might try it this way. Now we might try it this way. Some of those that are considered the white hats and the leaders have been time traveling. They've been doing this since the 80s and the 90s, but most especially coming up into 2016, 17, 18, even 2012. They have been doing so to see, okay, if we say this to the humanity here, they're like literally jumping through time and experiencing different timelines. And so now that everything is coming together, and there are no multiple timelines anymore, they've still been jumping and saying, okay, let's try it this way, okay, let's try it this way. And so it is literally being created as we speak, and as they are experiencing this. So this is why I cannot tell you which is going to be first. But all that chaos that you're feeling about, be it personally and in the business world, that is very, very, very much what I have seen, and it will all improve and get better. Give it another couple of weeks though. I know the weather attacks happened all over the world, may be done by the nefarious ones to reduce population and prevent the EBS, but sometimes for reasons we don't know, it could be the white hats. Is the weather attack and storms and floods in Hawaii, were they done by the Black Hats? Is there like a more recent time in Hawaii of flooding? There have been floods all over the world. I'll say that. Let's see. when it comes to the nefarious ones and the WHs, there are way, way, way more of the WHs, and you know what I'm saying. The nefarious ones, there are a few, and some I'm still seeing that certain things in HARP and those different things they use to control and manipulate were programmed a long, long, long time ago. And so and so some of that is playing out. Some of it the WHs are aware and they're just letting it play out for people to see that this was what was intended. Some of it is some of this flooding, because water is the biggest cleanser there is. Some of this flooding is about cleansing energy, cleansing these various locations, and it is through the cleansing sometimes that people come together through the flooding and things that people come together as a community. So my sense is that for all these many different reasons, the nefarious ones are a very tiny percentage, maybe 1 to 2% of it, and the rest of it is things that were allowed to happen, and the control and manipulation that has like amplified certain things is very minimal, and like that it is not done by the nefarious ones. There is some that is done by the WHs, but it's just not very much. A lot of this is the, think about it. Gaia herself is a consciousness, and Gaia herself is cleansing the earth and clearing out these things on the earth. So some of these things are just naturally happening. Number one, because of the change in frequency is causing change in temperatures, is causing changes in how the earth responds. And so two, there's also that percentage of it that is Gaia herself cleansing the earth. And then another part of it that we think is very small is the nefarious ones. And then there's another part of it that is the WHs. But those two I'm getting is 40 to 50%, of which the WHs have more control than the nefarious ones. Did that come out very confusing? I don't know. Will there be a winter as we know it, and will Christmas be done with? We live in the north. Yes, there's going to be winter. We're not there. This planet was always intended to have seasons and changes, and like snow, mountains, desert, valleys, and yes, there will be a Christmas. There. See, this is where, as I was talking about it earlier, when you get certain people that say like the entire Christianity is bad. No, it's not. And Christmas was a beautiful, beautiful energy as it celebrates the birth of Christ. Did it happen on December 25th? No, it did not. However, the energy behind what it represents was that which is of bringing the light to the earth plane. So Christmas, as you know, it may change, but for 40 to 50% of people, it was never about the religion anyway. It was only about the trees and the celebration and the family and the gifts and the stuff like that. So there will be changes that come about in association with all of the holidays that you guys celebrate. And some of it will, the vast majority of it will just feel very natural and evolutionary as it happens. Okay. I've been noticing the birds, bunnies, chipmunks, bees, and other animals as though they are communicating with me. How beautiful! All you need to do is connect your consciousness to theirs, and being aware that you have the very analytical thinking mind, but most of the animal kingdom are not as specific as that. It's not going to be like, for example, as you connect with the bee, it'll just be the essence of sweet, or the essence of nurturing, or keeping the hive, or keeping the queen bee, so it'll be like these entrained instincts is what causes them to be there. So be aware that as you're connecting with the consciousness of an animal, that you may connect into like the over soul or the over consciousness that is what all of them are a part of. If you have something that comes into your yard and you have a sense of looking, or you're looking across the yard and you say, oh wow, look who just came to visit, and all you have to do is say, I connect with love and light to this rabbit, elk, deer, whatever it may be, bee, hummingbird, bluebird, whatever it may be. And then just be at peace and feel that connection, feel that love. Sometimes it may be a metaphor, rather than the specific message that is coming to you. So when you connect with that bee, I'm sensing like this feeling of like it's releasing your heart center, it's opening your heart center, and this movement of energy is taking place. So that may be the whole entire purpose of it, not for you to get a message that you could write down and post somewhere. So the messages are coming in the energy and the feelings and the emotions. Okie doke. I wrap copper material bands, you may say, around my ankles and wrist at night. It seems to bring toxins to the surface of the skin. Is this accurate? Let's see. When I'm looking at this individual and tapping into the copper and stuff, yes, I agree that this is doing what you want it to do. However, I'm also picking up on the fact that there are many other things out there that say they will do that, but not everything is going to be good quality, and not everything is going to do what it is. The other thing to consider is that sometimes people may not be in a vibrational alignment to receive that or to have that experience. So just be very aware that it may or may not, like in this individual, yes, it's working, but if you get it and you think, gee, I don't feel any differently, well, maybe you didn't have toxins to be released, maybe you were already imbalanced, maybe you expressed being imbalanced in a different way, or maybe you just didn't have this a good quality, so there's so many different things that come into play when it comes to working with various metals, be it jewelry, be it bands, whatever it may be. So just listen to your intuition. I just noticed I've been talking almost 50 minutes, so very, very long time. And we need to move on. So any other questions, maybe hold them for Albayon. Well, Brysentia, thank you for this opportunity. There have been so many things we've talked about today. Be aware of the many waves of vibration and energy I have given to you. Be open to receive whatever that may be for you. Antiluia. Greetings. It is I, Albayon. Woof! This place is amazing. Can I just say that? I'm standing here on my ship and I am looking around at the dimensions and the frequencies. And I wish to share with you this perception that I have so that it might help you. Crystallia was trying to speak with you about how the perception of so much is going to change as your consciousness rises and as it changes due to these different ascension experiences. So where I am in this layer of beings that are surrounding the earth, it's as if, and you can think about it as like with your radar, how you might see a ship up here, but there's actually one down here, but your radar is looking up here, so it doesn't see what's down there. That's another way of considering how things show up in different vibrations and frequencies. I wanted to also tap in about the nefarious ones that they were speaking about. Those that were in that location, Brysentia tapped into it through the individual that was asking that question, and that was the answer they got. So what I would like to say is that they are beings that have supported the nefarious ones, but they are not necessarily nefarious in and of themselves, because they do come from about a ninth vibrational frequency, and they were doing a job, so to speak, and their job was to promote a particular aspect of living on the earth plane. And so absolutely, there were many, many, many nefarious ones that reveled in their nefariousness. Is that a word? You know, they were just literally bad energies or bad frequencies, and that was what they sought to promote, and that was what they sought to have. But this group in particular that Brysentia tapped into, and that this individual was tapping into, have worked as nefarious ones, or have worked with those that were the negative. But they've also been doing it, number one, to monitor them. Number two, to try to, through subtle energy exchanges, try to create changes that were taking place. And so number three, their aspect or their reason for being there now is that they are helping to shift that last perspective. So are they nefarious ones themselves? No, they are just playing a job, or playing a part in all of this transformation, and doing the job that they agreed to do. Someone just said, yeah, I think I see the same thing. Absolutely. So trust your instinct. If you have 6 or 10 or 15 or 20 people in social media saying there's bad things out there, there's bad, there's bad, there's bad, but you're connected into it and saying, are they? Are they really bad, or are they maybe not so bad? So listen to your intuition and always believe in your own intuition. The next thing that I did want to speak about is the, sorry, it just went out of my mind. There was something else I wanted to talk to you about. Okay, oh yeah. So I'm up here, and as I'm looking at the earth plane, those of us that have been here for a very long time, we have massive ships. The mothership is like a continent, you could say, but there are other very, very, very big ships that have multiple different layers and levels on it. And some of these are where people live, some of them are where there are meetings that go on, some of them are what pilot the ship itself. Like, think of the Enterprise, you know, that big huge ship that's just, you know, kind of like going along at its own pace. That is somewhat what I am a part of, but I'm also a part of a smaller ship that goes in and out more easily, and that other even smaller ships come off of mine. So I, as Albayon, move between these different ships and work with multiple different individuals. So the reason that I'm bringing this up to you is that you are going to begin to hear about ships, and people are going to reference it back to, well, in the ancient days there were ships that came in. They're um the majority is the Anunnaki. There were some of the Anunnaki that were there to create balance. There were others of the Anunnaki that were there to take over with the nefarious ones. And at the time that all this was taking place, there were other species that were also there trying to create balance and trying to work things out on the earth plane. As things progressed, the Anunnaki just became stronger, 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 and they got rid of all their competition, as they talked about it, and these energies of the Anunnaki are still present in this day. You know, you can tap into them. They are very aware of what is going on the earth plane. There are those that were part of the nefarious Anunnaki that have been restrained and have been taken out and have been removed. There are others that were of the positive energy of the Anunnaki, and they're the ones that are now coming in and helping to clear out what was done by these previous beings. But when you're looking at all these various religions, and when people are talking about it, just to reiterate what Brysentia said to you, be very, very, very aware that because they were the more prominent ones, they gave that name to everyone that was coming in. They were not always the Anunnaki, they were other species, but they called them Anunnaki. The Anunnaki did have that big head that you see in many of the images, but that was the royalty of the Anunnaki. There were others that looked different. There were the giants. So let me speak to that too, because someone had asked a question of Shelly that earlier. It's recently been going about, let me just say, you will notice that this is the disclosure coming out. They said that they just took out, what, 33 cardinals? They just took out all the money. That took place in 2020. That took place in 2021. But yet they're acting as if it's taking place right now to try to keep it in real time. So there's also the pilot that flew the giant from the mountains in the Middle East and brought it back to the United States. And so people are just putting this out now. He can talk about it now. That also took place about 3 years ago or so. That was one of the Anunnaki demigods. He was eating people. That's what all of them did. That was why, when consider the many, many, many different, what did you call them, fairy tales, as you were growing up. Remember Jack and the Beanstalk and the giant up at the top? Well, that was what this represented, and they would eat the children and they would eat the people. So this has been a part of the nefarious ones that is just literally, there's no place in the universe where this is okay, that you eat human flesh, or that you eat humanity, or that you eat children. Um, it just is not. But but because they were there, and because they have been in power for so very long, and they were the ones behind that control and manipulation, it became the norm, or that it was okay. And of course, it is never okay, and it is not okay. But this is what's been in the process of being cleared out. So when they spoke about this, the first group of people that went in to try to take it, he was in a state of stasis inside the mountain, and something awakened him. Probably the shift in the vibration and frequency, the long red hair, as they talk about. I think he was one of those that you would consider 15 to 18 feet tall, something like that. And they used to walk on the earth. When you look at some of those buildings from the ancient days, and you think, wow, why did they have such a tall? Well, because these people lived there, and they walked there, and they lived in that existence. So, speaking about this, I confirmed that it was legitimate. I confirmed that everything they spoke about did happen at that time, and they brought it back, and they were trying to. There was a group that brought it back that wanted to resurrect it and use it as a part of their nefarious schemes. However, there was another part of it that just wanted to dissect it and see what it was all about. My sense is that he was never resurrected. His consciousness was removed at the time that he was killed, and the question was, how many more of those are on the earth plane, and how many are going to come out? There were two others that disappeared. They were there, and then they were not. So those were a part that, as these nefarious ones were removed from the earth plane, and that which was maintaining their state of stasis was removed, then that physical body just disappeared. You may hear about one more that's up in what we would call Scotland, Norway, Scandinavia, up in that part of the world. There, I believe there might be one still there, and it still feels like it's in stasis. And it feels like there might be one more down in Africa, like in the depths, in some of these deep caves within Africa. Africa has some many, many, many portals into the inner earth, and it feels like he's in one of those. But there were several on the, Canada, United States, South America. There were several in that space, and those were the ones that disappeared. When we look down at Australia, New Zealand, it feels like they were never specifically there. And so these other places in which they were placed, there's only one. For some reason, I keep feeling one. And maybe the whole purpose of that is that this one is going to be the one to shift the energy for all these others. But he's in stasis, and this is the one that's up north somewhere. Maybe it's even Russia or something like that. But it's in Scotland, Norway, Greenland, up in those very high northern spaces. Okay, so those were my comments that I wanted to speak about today, and now we can shift gears and I will answer questions. I use moldavite to cleanse toxins. Is this true? I wear it in jewelry. Yes, that is something that will cleanse the toxins in your body. So let me say just a couple of things about it. Your physical body has a natural cleansing ability. And if someone is feeling very out of balance, even though there are many different toxins in your environment, even though your food is not what you want it to be, your body has a natural ability to just filter things out. So when someone feels drawn to wear jewelry or drawn to have, those crystals beside them, or the copper, like that other person was talking about, these are different things you can do that can amplify and help you to clear out your energy so that you find that you're in a better state of balance. If you're just going about your day, living your things, if your vibration is at a higher frequency, it does all this for you automatically. You don't have to use anything extra. So it's about you using your discernment. And if you just love the jewelry, it makes you feel good, it is also helping to rebalance and cleanse your energy, then great. But what my point is that you don't have to everyone go around and think, oh, I need to use this. Oh, I better get this. Oh, let me take care of that, because um, your body can just naturally do it. Okay, I heard that loud and clear. So if someone has been ill, if someone their body is just not in the best way, um, in the best way to support him, then does it help to have these other things? 100% up to every individual. Whatever resonates with you that's going to help you is completely fine. There's no absolutely do it this way or that way. Look at the reflection. An odd question. What kind of toilets will we have in the future? The ones we have now use a tremendous amount of water. Well, be aware that all the natural minerals are going to be even more abundant in the future. The waste removals are different out on our ships and in different places. So yes, that there is a potential that they are all going to change, but that's just a minor thing. And just speaking to what you talked about, they use a tremendous amount of water, and why waste the water? So that is coming from that space of lack and coming from that space where, well, there's not enough water on the earth, so we shouldn't use it flushing the toilets. They already have made toilets that address that issue. But when you get around the corner and you're in a place where no longer are you living your life from a place of lack, but from a place of abundance, you're going to recognize that there's water and way more minerals and other things around you that you just didn't realize that you could tap into. So that just is a non-issue. Can you speak about why there seems to be a fight for domination of planet Earth? This is pure and simple evil versus good, period. It's the evil has run rampant on the earth for a very, very, very long time. And the planet itself is ascending into a higher frequency. It has done so, just as the whole universe, all of the planets in this universe have ascended to a higher frequency. And therefore, all of these nefarious ones, all of the evil, everything that's been going on is no longer compatible with the vibration of the planet. So it is obviously a very slow process for that ascension to take place. And that's why less and less and less will you see things like this, like the evil that's going on. But it was literally good versus evil, and that is all. Those are both judgments, are they not? But it is also another way that encourages people to go through their spirituality to understand who they are as a human, who they are as a soul, and understand that when you live your life from that space, you live it in a place that not only helps you to manifest everything that you seek to have, but it cleanses the air around you, it cleanses your own vibration and frequency, and it's just a whole different way of living. And that's what you are seeking to manifest right now. when like the image of what I see, that's like 40 years down the road. So it's not something that happens instantly, but already those of you that have been on this pathway, you can sit there and affirm, oh, but it's so different from what it was in the 90s, in the early 2000s. Is in particular since 2012, that was when the ascension manifested in the way in which it did. Okay, okay. How can we trust or believe the connect with you is true? Listen to your intuition. How can you are there are so many people that talk about stuff, and many of them learn and they study specific things using their 3D reality. There are many other people that might bring forth information, and and they might use cards or other things as a way of amplifying or opening up that doorway so that they can get more information. Other people, just such as Shelly, that's been doing this for a very long time, she has that connection, that alignment with us, because not only sorry, we downloaded, give me a second. So she began channeling back in the 90s, and by year 2000 she had this open flow of energy, you could say. And a lot of the beings that she was working with would be up in her higher self and speak through her. Once her vibration shifted upward in 2001, then they began coming within her and speaking out from her. And so her own vibration has just kept rising, 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 rising. And does she run around with this high vibration 24/7? No. It's pretty much impossible for anyone to do that. However, she can slip into it at the drop of a hat. Sometimes just like opening a door, getting a question, coming back out, that's using your intuition. Other times, she might go into it, have 5 minutes, 10-minute conversation, and then shift out. So in other words, she's in and out of that vibration and frequency. When we're doing a channel such as this, she has anchored her energies, she has set up her energies. We are very accustomed to her as she is to us. So that brings us through in a very strong and present way. Now, that being said, you can look at other people that are bringing in information, and sometimes it's the interpretation of it. Point in case, there's someone that Shelly absolutely loves. She listens to them all the time, but they constantly talk about how the banks are going to crash and everyone will lose their money. And never, ever in our perspective do we see that. So the reason that that's a difference, and even those individuals, if you listen carefully, you will see they're no longer saying that. So they're beginning to see. So people are tapping into this information, they're tapping into what's happening in your reality, and it gets interpreted by the person in that reality. So here we are, we're speaking through this individual who tends to have a very optimistic, uplifting vibration and energy. And so certainly we could look at something and say, oh, that's going to be devastating and gee whiz. But when we look at it, that's not what we see. So it's about us being true to ourselves, us being very as clear as we can possibly be in giving the information about either the questions we ask or the information that we want to give, and it's all the energy. So is it going to be exactly as she said, step by step by step? Maybe, maybe not. Or as we are saying, maybe, maybe not, because there are just so many different potentials that are still fluctuating. And that's what I was speaking of with that last one, when what I talked about how they time traveled, and to see, well, if we do this now, what's the outcome? If we change it to this, what's the outcome? So anyway, the same is true with this. We're here, we're present, we're very clear, and so go back with what resonates with you. If you listen to all this, and there is a lot of it that you're just saying that's just a bunch of crap, and she doesn't know anything, she hasn't studied anything, she's just, I don't believe any of it, then that's fine, that's your reality. If you listen to all this and you let it resonate inside of you, And maybe parts of it you think, not 100% I agree with that. However, the rest of it I agree with. That's your reality. During any time that there is a channeling situation going on, which is what this is channeling, there's always a flow of energy that is going through the individual that is speaking. So where does that flow of energy go? Well, in and around the room in which she is, but also out to all of you. So every single one of you that are listening to this, be it right now or later on, you're also feeling that flow of energy as it's coming into you. Some ways it's working very deeply inside of you, causing you to say, oh my gosh, I didn't think of it that way, but maybe this means whatever it means. So there's multiple different things that come into play when you ask yourself that question. Who is she? What does it mean? Do I even believe it? And the answer always comes back to trust your own intuition, trust your belief system, and also know that everything is changing. So if you happen to be someone that asked that question and you're just brand spanking new to all of this, well, a lot of your beliefs are going to be nudged and questioned, and you are going to have to move into a different place of reality in order to be in alignment with what is now happening on the earth plane. So if everything is just making you kind of freaked out and scared, then let that be something to say, oh, perhaps I need to make some changes in my reality and in my life. Or B, if it's really, really, really bringing up something that brings up fear inside of me, then clear the fear. Find out why you're so anxious about it. Get to the root of it, and clear it all out. And then you can move forward, and you will realize that you're now getting things. So good question, and it is very one-on-one. Now, a lot of the people that have been with Shelly throughout this process, like literally looking at some of these names, 5-10 years, something like that, they're in a similar vibration, so they understand what all of this is because they've asked the question before and they've been there before. But never stop questioning, but do always be open for change and transitions, and that things that you may know to be one way can shift and be something different. All right, anything else? What is causing the very unusual heat and dangerous drought here in Mexico? Very, very unusual high temperatures. Mexico in particular has been a place where, like if you go back to the ancient times, I'm talking 1,000 years ago, maybe more than that, Mexico and the high plains, it was a very, very, there were many landing places for planes to come in out, for ships to come in and out. It had a very, very, very high frequency. So in particular, as the nefarious ones came into that space, they dampened it all down. As you guys may have heard at one point or another, that those that are the nefarious ones would find these places that were very spiritual or that had a very high frequency, and they like try to put a cap on it and keep it from supporting humanity. And that's what Mexico was. So there's certain parts of Mexico, it feels like in the center, and then there's many different Indians. Some of those ended up being for the nefarious, some of them were very spiritual. But be very aware that some of this heat that you're feeling is literally burning off an old energy. And as that old energy that's been like a cap that was holding down the natural energy, the natural frequencies of that country that you live in, as that all gets burned away, and as those vibrations and frequencies realign and find their natural balance, you're going to feel that the whole country feels different to you, and it's going to be much more comfortable. This feels very temporary. It doesn't feel like it's going to be very much longer, that it needs to go on like this. So hang in there. Continue to see that space as being balanced. Continue to see it as detoxifying the things that were holding it down, and almost like you're just sending wave upon wave upon wave of cool, soothing energy. Use that as a means of detoxifying, use that as a means of cooling things down, and this is a way that you can help in this transition so that physically it will manifest more easily for you. Okay. Oh, goodness. You know, these hard ones are so hard when Shelly's in channel. These long ones, please, at some point, cut them down. 40 years ago, Sasquatch or Bigfoot was created on Atlantis to take over the hard labor of farming. I was told their time on Earth would be finished soon and they could leave the Earth and have ascended energies. And the possibility that they have ascended or are doing so, they touched my heart with a deep sadness. Okay, so these individuals, they were here even before Atlantis. They were here in much greater population. But if you go back to the time when they were creating humans and they were creating the DNA and they were figuring out how to make it be in the form of a human, you know, when you bring all these places from out in the universe and they had some tried over here, some tried over here, some tried over here. The Sasquatch, as you speak of it, they have a different name and it's not coming to me at the moment, and it's not Bigfoot. But anyway, as they literally came from a part of the universe and they were bringing very high vibrational spirituality. Now, they have the look that they have, and they were captured and used as labor during the time of Atlantis. However, when you get to their intrinsic self, they walk between dimensions. They hold a vibration and frequency that is a very high light vibration, and so a great number of them have already left the planet. And there was a time in which they considered, in fact, this is just popping into my consciousness. There was a time after Atlantis when they were enslaved in that way that that they literally had what do you call them, conversations, conferences, communications with those that like the Great White Brotherhood and those that were monitoring and helping the Earth plane. They were communicating with them saying, you know, maybe it's time for us to leave. Maybe this is no longer a place we need to stay. And so they did seriously consider leaving. And many of them did leave at that time and they went back to their home planet. However, they have now started coming in again because as the vibration of the Earth plane continues to rise in the way that it is, they are going to be here. You'll see them in the Himalayan mountains. You'll see them in not only cold places, but you'll see them in places that are kind of ancient, like where's that place Shelly likes to go? The mountain range that's north of where she lives. That's a very ancient mountain range. So you'll see them in that mountain range. You'll see them in the Himalayan mountains. You'll see them up in many of the northern open territories. And they literally just walk between the dimensions. There are not as many of them having children anymore as they used to have, but they have a tendency to live several hundred years. And but you will be hearing more about them in the future, because as all of this other information comes out, that is a part of what will come out. Okie doke. All right. Well, I am going to bring my time to a close here. I thank you for having this opportunity to work with you. I am ever present on Siluia. Greetings. It is I, Crystallia. I wanted to come third this time. I know we don't, it's a random order in which we all communicate with you, but I wanted to come third because as we're closing down this time of communication, I want to assist each one of you with being present in the frequency. This frequency is now, there's still fourth dimensional energy in here. There's fifth, but there's more of the sixth and seventh that is now being merged into it, so as to create like a not a ladder, that's not what you call that, a bridge, so as to create a bridge that will help all of the millions and millions of people that need to come from the lower vibration into the higher vibration. Consider that, if you will. If someone has been very solidly within a particular vibration and reality, including their belief systems, and suddenly you're giving them all sorts of these different potentials, and there's that little bit of, oh my goodness, who'd have thought. So this bridge that I'm speaking about, where you're pulling in all these different vibrations and frequencies, is giving everyone that opportunity to kind of more slowly move into the higher frequencies, so that you don't just make them go into overload or something that is very hard on them. But you guys are doing a great job. There is just, I just see this time of turmoil that you're in the midst of right now, and it is going to continue for a few more weeks or so, and then it will be back sporadically over time. But I just keep feeling by the summer solstice or the winter solstice, the June solstice, that that's going to be another phase of peacefulness and balance and integration. So between now and then, it feels to me like there's a lot of change and transformation that's going to be taking place. But I remind you, it's already happened. Almost 100% of what we're talking about has already happened. And if you find yourself going into a place of being anxious or afraid, then say, did this happen already? Or is this happening in this now moment? But irregardless of that, I am of the light. I am here to be present in this light vibrational frequency and this love and this frequency. And when you do that, that will just help to soothe any fears and anxiety that you may have. So be present with yourself. Understand that you are very powerful, and you always, always, always have access to the higher, lighter frequencies. Um, with these solar flares in particular that have been coming in more recently, there is more and more and more of an encoding that is going on. Like when I'm out with the group of people that I work with, we literally become a mass of energy. And we might be where these solar flares get sent off from different places, and some of them are just done by the way in which the universe itself is in alignment with one another. Some of them are intentionally put forth from that which you call God. And the reason for doing so is to help and assist with the ascension that's happening on the earth. As was spoken, the ascension's taken place. So we're speaking about the individual beings being able to open up their consciousness, open up their awareness, understand what is going on. And that is of which I speak. Okay. Well, also be aware that I am working very diligently with just about, there's groups of people and one-on-one with humanity. And when people begin, how do I say this? Maybe I need to bring Brysentia in to kind of help me with this. It's interesting that this is coming up to me at this time. When people would pray and they would ask for help from God or from angels or from light beings, there was a level or a state of being that you might call in your etheric field around you. Some of it was pretty close to the earth plane, when you had that very massive amount of you there's a word for that. You guys can type it in there to help Shelly out. I don't remember the word offhand. But anyway, that is what has thinned as the energy on the earth got more and more and more transparent. Not Akashic, it's something else. Sorry, she's getting distracted. So be aware that now, as people are sending their prayers up, as they're sending them into this universe, they too are connecting with their own self at a higher frequency. They're connecting with angels and light beings at a higher frequency. So the way in which you communicate with them shifts. It's no longer going to be, I am not enough and I need someone else to do this for me. Firmament, that's not what we're thinking of. There's a astral plane, the astral plane. Sorry, that's what Shelly had in her brain. But it's going to shift into, it's not that I am not capable of this. but I am asking for assistance to empower me to make these changes in my life instead of I cannot do it. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. Therefore, you do it for me. That's a big part of this transition. So, as all of humanity is going through this transition, what they might begin to feel or realize or recognize is, oh, it just feels like God is different, or oh, it just feels like the angels and the light beings are different. So there were some of those manipulative light beings, or I hate to call them light beings, but the quote unquote gods, that were there and that were controlling Earth people. And so since they are gone, and they're no longer telling them, to be dependent, you're not good enough, you can't do it. And so some people are doing their prayers the way they always did, but they're not connecting to that same frequency. Instead, they're now connecting with the frequency that is saying, you are beautiful, you are huge, you are massive, you can do this, and I'm here to help love you and support you as you do this yourself. So that's a big change. That's a big change of how things have transitioned just in the past 2 to 3 years. And so I wanted to share that with you so that you may begin to notice it yourself. But as you're talking to people, they may also begin to ask you questions about that, and it may affect you too. All right, let's jump into questions because Shelly's getting tired. Once our lesson on Earth is complete, or we feel like it is, how can we help others but not interfere in their lesson? So here's a big thing that you can do. Number one is be present for that person. And what that may mean is that you are there to answer questions for them. You are there to help them, if they need an extra pair of hands to physically do things in their reality. It may mean that there are many different ways such as that you can help them out. Another way that you can help them out is visualizing for them that they have that open flow and love that goes from them as the human into them as their soul, so that they then begin to hear and feel and sense and know as they are receiving messages from their own divinity. You can also just hold the light. You've heard that phrase before, hold the light. So if you think about that, here's this person that's having a horrible time. They're all caught up in their mental body. They're sad. Maybe they don't have food. Maybe they don't have a place to live. All of these things are going on in their reality. So you can, in your space of alignment with the divine, alignment with your source, you can be that balanced love energy. And then literally, as if you're encapsulating them in a big bubble of white light, just sending them love and compassion. That is another way that, number one, you stay disconnected and you're not energetically getting caught up in their stuff, but you are also holding that potential that they are totally unaware of, but you can see it because you are disconnected from them. So these are just a few different techniques that you can use. And it's just so many of you, the vast majority of you, are accustomed that in conversation with people, if they ask about something, you want to fix it, because as humans, you want to fix things. So it's about flipping it around and instead being there to let them talk, to let them be, to let them have whatever their experience is. And you are almost like you're the witness for it. Yes, I witnessed what you are going through. Yes, I can appreciate that that is so hard for you. And you're not saying it as a judgment one way or the other. You are reflecting back what they are asking you or what they are saying is their reality. And then and what that does for an individual is it allows them to feel a level of acceptance or awareness. And then when that awareness hits, then boom, you can shift into something new and different. So just a few ideas. Did you agree that our DNA is also changing from carbon based to 100%? Yes. Yes. And there will always be an aspect of the carbon base in it because you're human, you're on the earth plane, you have this particular physicality. But what is transitioning into the crystalline is that which is the energy inside of your cells, that which is the energy of the DNA that's in your muscles, your ligaments, your skin, your bones. It's in all aspects of who you are. And this is giving you that potential to experience it. But as more and more and more of that transitions, then that's another way that you'll have less of the illnesses that you've had before, because the crystalline vibrational energy is ever flowing, there's ever movement present within it. And if you have a particular experience, but your crystalline vibration, then you can say, oh, got it, move on, make a change. You're not as entrained in that old energy. All right, anything else? Excellent. Well, everyone, I'm just going to go ahead and bring this to a close because it's been quite a while, coming up on 2 hours for show. We all three are but representatives of many, many, many other thousands of beings that are working with you, humans and humanity, as a means of moving through this change. Change is always hard. No matter where you are, change is hard. But in particular, when you're letting go of thousands of years worth and hundreds of years worth of a particular belief system and a particular reality. So be present within yourself, be open to your soul essence, know that you are not alone, and we are ever with you. Ansaluia.